Solar Opposites is the latest series from Justin Roiland and Mike McMahon. It's a sci-fi sitcom about a family who have left their home planet after it was destroyed and have landed on Earth, and some of them hate it, some of them love it. The series was originally pitched to Fox, but it got scrapped and ended up getting picked up by Hulu, which is unfortunate for me as a Canadian because that means I needed to wait for my friend who lives in the United States to stream it to me. Sorry to all y'all Canadians that were looking to watch this, or actually anyone outside of the United States. You're not going to be able to watch this unless you pirate it. But is it even worth your time in the first place? Well, that's what we're here today to deduce. Now, I've never talked about Rick and Morty before on the channel, but I'm quite fond of it, as I'm sure many of you are. There's nothing else on TV that's really anywhere close to what Rick and Morty achieves. It's a pretty unique show, and it's the best sci-fi cartoon that I've seen since Futurama. So what does this have to do with Solar Opposites? Well, if you haven't noticed by the art style, Justin Roiland, the head of Solar Opposites, is the original creative mind behind Rick and Morty. And when you spearhead something as massive as Rick and Morty, and it has this much impact on pop culture, it's going to be difficult not to compare whatever you follow Rick and Morty with to Rick and Morty. And even if you didn't know that Roiland was behind it, it would be difficult not to notice the parallels to Rick and Morty. We're using an incredibly similar art style with some slightly sillier human designs reminiscent of Rick and Morty Season 1. We're living with a suburban family of 4 and a worm. We've got sci-fi themes, we've got intense over-the-top gore, we've got fourth wall breaking every now and then, and we have occasional dialogue improvisation. So, where does this differ, and what does it do differently? Well, for starters, it could be just that we have one season right now, but the characters seem to be a little bit simpler. We have Corvo, who is serious and hates Earth. We have Terry, who is happy-go-lucky and just wants the experience of living on Earth. We have Jesse, who loves the Earth and its people and seems relatively simple-minded, uninterested in most alien tech. And we have Yumulak, who hates human beings and seeks to torture them with his alien tech, using them for experiments and whatnot. The characters all have pretty good chemistry, but I'd like to see a little more interaction between the kids and the adults. More often than not, we get them split up for the episode, and we have Terry and Corvo figuring out a situation while the kids figure out their own problem. Sometimes we even have a third arc with the pupa just doing whatever the pupa does. The pupa's the yellow thing, by the way. It's like a banana slug that's meant to destroy the Earth or something. I don't really know what they're doing with it. The simpler characters do make sense though, because unlike Rick and Morty, the philosophical ideas are completely tossed out the window. We're here to have some silly, slapstick fun. And despite the over-the-top nature of the violence and the shenanigans that Corvo and Terry pull with the alien technology that they bring, the show still feels relatively toned down in comparison to Rick and Morty, which feels odd to say, but kind of makes sense. It's still all very high energy, but we don't get these world-ending cataclysms and dimension hopping and government involvement, nothing like that. We just get neighborhood shenanigans. And the implications of the actions of the protagonists are usually ignored. It's more about relationships between characters than fulfilling a gigantic arc for the series. The Wall is without a doubt the true genius of this show. Justin Roiland has definitely picked up on juggling multiple plots after dealing with Dan Harmon for all these years. So Yumulak collects humans that he finds. And what does he do with them? Well, he places them in this wall that he has in his room. The wall is a number of different compartments, and people develop this entire society based on whatever was in their pockets when they were shrunk. Matchsticks become weapons, toothpicks are swords, Lego is used as armor. It's almost like the car battery episode from Rick and Morty, in which we get to see a universe within a universe. But we keep returning to it in Solar Opposites, and so it gets more and more developed. It's not just a cool idea that gets tossed aside. And I really liked it. I thought it was incredibly interesting, especially the 7th episode, which devoted to fleshing out the characters that live in the wall. Think Lord of the Flies meets Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. But disregarding the wall, as interesting as it is, the rest of the series feels almost akin to Family Guy. They just do whatever they want, however they want. Actually, I would almost compare it to Invader Zim in tone, in that the theme of the show is basically, I could destroy this whole goddamn planet if I knew what I was doing, but no one knows what they're doing. Where this show differs from almost any cartoon that I've seen is its deliberate overflow of pop culture references. Now, in Rick and Morty, they would make up some creative alternative that makes obvious reference to a real thing, i.e. Blips and Chits is an intergalactic Dave and Buster's. But in Solar Opposites, they don't even attempt to parody Dave and Buster's, they just straight up go there. In one episode, they're like, we need to find the manliest place on Earth, we need to find the sweatiest, manliest man cave. And where do they go? They go to Dave & Buster's. They don't even go to Babe & Dusters. They go to Dave & Buster's. It got to the point where I had no idea if I was looking at product placement or a joke, and eventually I just started ignoring the idea of product placement and just started watching. Some popular form of media or a product was being name dropped every 1 minute, so it got to the point where I was like, they're either not doing a very good job, because if they wanted to sell me pizza, they wouldn't bring up Dr. Pepper 1 minute later, or they're doing an amazing job and it's all subliminal and I'm already a slave to this, so I can't do anything about it. So reference humor is used a lot in the show. The humor is not limited to just that, though. It's a lot more absurdist and slapstick than Rick and Morty, and it's incredibly rapid-fire, approaching Archer in terms of dismissive joke delivery, but without the wit. This is exactly what I expected from a show made by Justin Roiland without Dan Harmon. I'm still eating spaghetti, I'm just eating it with a different sauce now. And is that sauce any good? Yeah, it is pretty good. This is clearly nowhere near as impactful as Rick and Morty. This isn't groundbreaking, it's not mind-blowing, there's none of that here. It's just cool ideas combined with good humor and likable characters. I don't know what more I could have asked for. What keeps Solar Opposites from being just any other cartoon is that it's actually memorable. I want to see more from these characters, and I want to see more of how their story develops. It's interesting, and most importantly, it's entertaining. And so for those reasons, today, I think we can give Solar Opposites an 8 out of 10.